what did they say when you had that dinner to them? What were you saying to them?
The message was, we are deadly serious. I've always had the mantra that it ain't a deal till the second order's paid for.
Yes.
If you're confident, your team's confident that we're growing this puppy, don't keep thinking about exiting your business, because it starts spoiling the karma in the business. When you're trying to pitch to a buyer at a supermarket, and you will sit in front of that buyer and almost instantly you know whether the meeting's going to go well or not. Regardless of anything, you haven't even opened up your laptop or anything. And I think trying to predict that and doing your research on who you're about to sit in front of was pretty key.
Barney, thank you so much for doing this, mate. I know it's been a long time coming. We've sort of talked and I think crossed paths numerous times, namely at the Food Exchange. I've always wanted to do this, so thank you and super grateful for having us in your amazing home. I'm incredibly grateful and excited for this.
Very cool. Thanks for having me, Dan. I think the last time I had this was probably in a police cell somewhere.
Really?
Bright lights.
What was it?
No, we can't go there.
Really? Oh yeah, sorry. For listeners, I've brought my new toy, and I get kind of very excited when I buy new toys, and it's a massive fuck off light thing that's sort of piercing down on us.
Oh, by the way, we have a swear jar this time, which Dan's not used to.
Oh yeah.
That was the first swear. I've only got 4 things to put in it. So
I'll just say fuck, so it's all done then. But yeah, what I'd love to start with, I think when we spoke on the phone a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, before you done the Future of Food thing, is we were talking about the exit of Fuel 10K, and you said to me that you went for dinner with one of these guys, and you want to sort of look in the white of his eyes and say, like, is this actually going ahead? I'd love to know what sort of happened at that dinner, if you can disclose that. Where was it? Was it sunny? Was it sunshine? Was it winter? And yeah, talk us through that moment, because I think there's these moments in the brand building journey where things can kind of hang by a thread, and I'd love to know. Talk me through that.
Yeah, I think it probably needs a little bit of context as to how we got there. So Fuel 10K we launched in 2012.
Yep.
And in 2022. We had an approach by Premier Foods, which I'm allowed to say, and we got quite far into the negotiation over the summer of 2022. However, as we got to the end of the summer, the inflationary environment was becoming quite a big issue for most brands in FMCG, and I think that was the reason why they then turned around to us and said, look, we're actually going to drop this. Thank you very much, but we're concerned that you might not make it through, or the numbers might not be quite what we think they are, so we'd like to just leave this for a bit longer. Much to our disappointment.
Describe that feeling, because I think it's, as Giles said the other week, goes more deals, 95% of deals don't get done. You'd be surprised that when you get down the line and then it gets, and like, it's just that sort of, feels like your gut's falling through your arsehole kind of moment. Like, describe that.
I think I've always been quite sort of, I don't know what the word is, sort of open-minded to this. We always had plan A. Plan A was our plan to carry on and do the best we were going to do. And this was probably the most serious approach that we'd had. We'd had previous approaches before. So I suppose we were slightly hardened to it. I think the thing that was frustrating about this one was that it had taken up quite a lot of our summer holidays, and we were feeling quite exhausted. And with this tidal wave of inflationary cost of living stuff coming at us, we were quite looking forward to some sort of help or a break should there be some sort of event. So I think you have to be quite hardened to all of this, and never count your chickens, if that's the saying. Besides, we weren't actually for sale. We hadn't put ourselves up for sale. Our numbers weren't set up for sale. So,
when you say your numbers weren't set up for sale,
so we were investing in growth.
Right.
So we weren't EBITDA strong, particularly. We had quite a lot of stuff to untangle, because we had another company called Fresh Marketing, which helped us get fuel out of the blocks. Fresh Marketing was an export business, and it gave us some income to be able to make plenty of mistakes as we started creating our own brand, which allowed us to avoid having to fundraise throughout the whole journey pretty much. We did take on some EIS in about year 7. But I think we learned so much through that process, that 2022 process, about ourselves and perhaps the DD that we needed to straighten ourselves out.
So then, what have you learned about yourself? So that's the context. So then that's 2022, and then I think 2023. You've gone. Where have you gone for? Where is this dinner, by the way? Just I love restaurants. Yeah. Just to set the scene, paint the picture.
It was up in. Can I come back to that? I will remember. I can't remember the name of it.
French, Italian.
It was all a bit of a blur, frankly.
Really interesting.
But somewhere very nice.
Yeah.
With quite impactful, interesting people. But so fast forward to March 2023, by which time we'd got over it all. Plan A was well underway. We were tidying ourselves up. We had started thinking about maybe looking at doing a process, an exit or a sale process in 2024, but nothing sort of concrete. But we had a call from Premier again in March, and that was we've heard on the grapevine you might be maybe looking, can we have another look? And it was at that point where it's like, well, how do I know we're not going to lose another summer? So your original question, I wanted to see the whites of their eyes and know that I wasn't going to waste my team's time again.
And what did they say when you had that dinner to them? What were you saying to them?
The message was, we are deadly serious.
Yeah.
Of course, there might be things that make it fall over during due diligence and what have you, but the intention was there, and that's what I was looking for.
And as you walked away from that dinner, as you're hopping in a cab, like, what is the sort of thoughts in your head? Because you'd had that period before where you said you'd been hardened, and you said you were kind of open to it, but what was different this time?
Well, I think if I'm really honest, I was reasonably numb about it. I've always had the mantra that it ain't a deal till the second order's paid for.
Oh, yes.
Which is
lovely.
Quite a nice one. You tell your salespeople, they got their first order from Tesco, but are they going to order again, and are they going to pay for it? So, it ain't a thing until it's a thing. And that's probably quite a good mindset to enter these sorts of things.
I got stung the other day with a sponsorship deal that I thought was game set match. Pass me the oranges, and then you tell your friends that I get way too excited. So I'm sort of like, it's all done.
You jinxed it.
Yeah, I've jinxed it. Go down the Durrell Arms down the road and have a few beers, but it's premature. And then you said, so 2022 and then that next second luncheon or dinner, wherever it was, you cleared yourself up. You had to clear the business up. Like, what was the due diligence you had to do to get Fuel 10K into shape to then exit? Because I think that's really interesting. That time period from 22 to the eventual exit, which was March 23, but I'm assuming that meeting was before.
The eventual exit was October 23.
October 23.
So the meeting was March. So
okay, with you, yeah.
It took from March to October to then get to the end.
And what was the due diligence and polishing you had to do?
So there was some entanglement with the fresh marketing business, because that had been the incubator, I suppose, of Fuel 10K way back when. We had some shared staffing between the two businesses, particularly back office. We also realised that actually there were quite a few things that we hadn't prepared ourselves for properly.
A bit closer to you if you can. Yeah, just that. There we go.
Like that?
Yeah, perfect.
I think we'd recognised that there were some areas that we needed to tighten up on, particularly around how we were self-reporting to ourselves. On our P&L, on our forecasting and what have you. And I think one of the best things that we did, and I remember someone saying to me, the best thing you can do is get an expert in the fields that you're feeling light on. And we brought in a CFO who had actually just been through an exit process with the Spice Tailor to Premier Foods. And he was leaving Premier Foods, and we invited him to come and join the gang to join our Plan A. So this was before the March thing. So he thought he was coming to join an exciting journey. It was an exciting journey, but perhaps not the one he thought he was going to join. And he became a very valuable asset to just tidying up everything that we needed to do, from all the paperwork to from the the trademarks, the contracts, all the things that a big business, a listed business like Premier would need. We had no idea. So without going into all the detail, there's a lot.
Yeah. And what were some of the unforeseen challenges as you went through that, like, that you think could really help people at some point? Like, as you said, instead of like having to clear and polish things up, 6 months away from the second go at it, if there's brands who can start thinking of stuff now, to say that they don't have to miss. It's almost like standing on the shoulders of giants, right? You've been there, done that, got the pot of gold. What should people be focusing on now so they don't have to go through it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So since exiting, I stepped off, as did my business partner Alex Mattison, and the rest of the team stayed to run it through, and they should stay to March 24. So we exited in end of October. They stay to the end of March, so they can pick up their bonus. And of course, they could leave beforehand if they wanted to, and some chose to stay on and what have you. So to answer your question, since then, I've spoken to many founders in the food industry of all shapes and sizes. And some of these founders believe that they're getting close to a potential exit themselves. I think many people should continue along the plan A mindset.
Just define the plan A mindset quickly.
Carry on building your business and do the best you can.
Yeah.
So if you're confident, your team's confident that we're growing this puppy, don't keep thinking about exiting your business, because it starts spoiling the karma in the business. So plan A is a really good way of setting your mindset for it. But what I would say to brands that are probably just got over this various hurdles or what I like to call waypoints of building a business that could one day sell.
What would you say are some of those waypoints?
So I think revenue. So if you're getting near or over sort of 10 million or so,
yep.
In positive EBITDA, and you've got a proposition that you could multiply the growth of. So a lot of businesses want to buy your business because they want to grow it even more. If you're selling to private equity, they go, well, how do we 3x this? And then when we sell it, how are they going to 3x it? So have you got a proposition that has that growth in it?
That's a really nuanced, interesting point, because I think, do you know Libby Piper investment?
Yeah.
She's amazing. She said that as well. So it's like, we're actually
probably got it from her.
Well, but it's interesting how you think, you're thinking about how can they then flip it on for another 3x, which I thought was fascinating. So what was that model where you could go to Premier and say, right, how are Premier going to 3x it? Like, because I think that's a really interesting thing to think about. If we almost trying to reverse engineer it back, and we'll get on to retrospective strategizing. Don't that's a fascinating subject.
It's the answer to everything, and you're always right.
Yeah.
Actually, if I carry on the line of speaking to founders, the way that I describe it is: imagine you've just exited. Who did you exit to, and who were the other suitors when you were actually exiting to, and why did they buy you? What was the reason for it? So just put yourself in that position from their perspective. Why did they buy you? And also, you're in the future now looking backwards at your business that's maybe 2 or 3 years younger. And that gives you a really nice way of going, okay, I now understand that in Premier's case, they didn't have much in breakfast. They just skipped in with ambrosia porridge pots. So they didn't have anything in breakfast, which is a big category. They also didn't have a brand that was pushing the protein message quite like ours. They also didn't have brands that lent towards the consumers that we were appealing to. So there are 3 big chunky things there, let alone the rockets they could put behind UK retail, let alone the international opportunities that they'd be able to open up in due course as well. But the key there was breakfast is big, protein's a lasting trend, and these consumers are younger consumers that we can grow old with. And so there's a longevity in it. And with that brand, can we take it across into other categories? They manufacture pretty much everything that they do. What other things could we do with brand Fuel 10K? So actually quite an exciting proposition from their point of view. And I didn't really appreciate all of that when we kind of rationalised it all afterwards.
It's such a beautiful point in that, and this is based on a conversation with Giles a couple of weeks ago. But you've really sort of blossomed the point, and I wrote about this in my newsletter. It's like a product market fit, i.e., is your brand working and getting to the right consumer through retail, is not the same as brand exit fit. And which is what you basically talked about there. Brand exit fit for Premier is, they want something with, they don't have much cereal, they've only got Ambrioso, they want to hit the
Ambrosia.
Oh, I can't
is that how you say it?
Yeah, Ambrosia, whatever the fuck it is. And then Ambrioso, and protein, and then also, as you say, you think expand to other categories. That's a great example of brand exit fit. The example Giles gave with Innocent is like Innocent went into these veg pots, because there was a whole government sort of macro trend towards 5 year days. So Innocent was like, right, get a juice, that's 2, veg pot, that's 3, all in one. A darling example of product market fit, and apparently it was selling quite well according to Giles. But then when they came to sell it to Coca-Cola, like, we don't want to buy a veg pot business. We want to buy a juice business. And I think that's a darling example of like brand market fit is not the same as product market fit.
Yeah, I was at Innocent for 5 years as well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just veg pots, it was thickies, which were yogurt drinks, and also juicy waters, which in their own right were pretty big businesses just on their own. They carved out juicy waters, they stopped the dairy, because they knew that dairy was a really big different thing to juice. And of course the veg pots they've rolled out, and that's now become an even bigger wonderful brand elsewhere. But you're right, we could have started looking internationally, and going, we're an international business. We could have tried to find different areas of the supermarket, which some brands have successfully done. But we decided to stay right to the breakfast opportunity. So young people were not shopping the breakfast category. We were incrementally bringing young shoppers to those shelves, and we were becoming important and big to one buyer. So we weren't spreading ourselves thin across the supermarket or internationally.
Oh, so because I was going to say you're again, as I said, the reason I love doing this podcast, I speak to every single person. There's no rules. William Chase, Tyrrell's, there are no rules to building a brand, and that's why I love it, because there's every single conversation is different. Did James Watt a couple of weeks ago says you don't need to sell. Your marketing should be so good you don't need to sell. Gary from VitHit is like sell at all costs. There's 2 different ways to skin the cat, and yeah, with you guys, it's like because I view the brand from the outside looking in, and it feels like you're in lots of different categories, or maybe is it one category but lots of different products? Is that the sort of the nuance there? So you're still focused, but
we were very much breakfast all the way, and then that became morning, and there was a lot of chat about, do we stretch that? I mean, people are eating our stuff in the afternoon.
Yeah. You keep going, yeah.
So people are eating our products throughout the whole day, and why do we tell people that it's only for one occasion in the morning? But I think that was the supermarket opportunity, and that's why we stayed true to that argument all the time. If you start trying to be something to everyone, then you're going to dilute somewhere. And we felt that was a very strong message. And interestingly, our chocolate granola, which was the first product we launched, is now, and tell me if I'm wrong, Premier Foods, January, last 12 months, the biggest granola SKU in the UK. So we've just overtaken the ones that we used to chase, the Kellogg's granola, the Jordan's granola, the Dorset cereal.
Amazing.
And so that's a powerful story. And that's just bringing mostly incrementality to the category. So the supermarket is going, this is great. We haven't cannibalized what's already there. We're future-proofing ourselves.
So I love those sort of 3 big levers you said, and that sort of encompasses the brand exit fit, which is again a very nebulous thing, but which is case by case. What else do you think you sort of wish you'd known when it came to the exit Was it like you said you brought in that CFO guy or girl? I don't remember what you said. But like, what else were the other things you think you wish you knew about in terms of it, but getting it ready to sell or making it run more smoothly?
I think we were learning so much on the job all the way through. We weren't trained FMCG challenger brand people, so you had to slightly make a lot of mistakes to be proficient. And of course, when you become proficient, all the rules change anyway, so you can never really know the answer to anything. So it didn't feel like we were completely out of our depth. You just put a glaze of common sense over it. It's like, well, does it make sense? And there was a lot of long words and contracts and what have you. And we hired very good lawyers and very good accountants to guide us through, and a wonderful M&A team too. And so they were like the uncle figures in the process. You said, no, you got to read that one, and this is quite a big deal. But the terminology within it all, you don't need to go to school for that. Interesting, I did then take myself off to Said Business School to do an 8-week intense course on what the hell just happened. Wish I'd done it before.
What did you learn on that course? What was the main things you learned on that Syed course? Because Syed's the banging business school in Paris, isn't it?
No. This is Oxford Syed.
Oh, right.
Part of the Oxford thing.
Just a little bit off. Different country.
200 miles.
Yeah. Which is the one is it INSEAD in Paris? Oh, that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that, guys. So the course was, and I recommend it to anyone. It was about $2,000 to do it. It was the best thing I wish I'd done previously, and it was all about the perspectives in the process. So the entrepreneurial perspective and the investor perspective. And the investor could be the buyer. It could be someone putting money in. It could be PE, VC. It could be angel, and the entrepreneur could be startup, medium, big. But what I think so many people forget is that you think this and you see this, and they see the same as you, but from a different angle with a different set of agendas. It's much like the sale process to the Tesco buyer, say. If you think, okay, well, what I really want to do is get this product on shelf, but actually put yourself in the shoes of the buyer. So what does the buyer really want to do? They want to make more cash per square inch of shelf space than the previous buyer, so that they look good to their boss, they get their bonus and the promotion. That's what they want. They're not as invested in you as your thing. So if you can speak a language that plays into what they are looking for, then you're going to be at least closer to potentially getting a listing. But if you bang on about I'm the best and we're the best and B Corp and this, that and the other, and I put B Corp in there because that seems to be a big kind of selling point. It's interesting, important, but it's not a reason why a buyer's going to buy you. And so the course was again about perspective. It's a bit like we were talking about why did Premier buy us? Let's not worry about why we want to sell or why we think we're valuable. It's like, why would a suitor buy you?
Yeah, it's the difference between product market fit, which you clearly had because you're in basically all the grocers, versus but that nuance, that brand exit fit, which is as you said, you went on that course for $2,000, which probably give you. And I think the way you said it, Barney, mate, was you think like this, and they see your business like from this angle. For people listening, so I'm pointing with my right hand straight forward and left hand they're coming at it sort of from a side. What did you learn from that course then? What were the one to sort of two things that really were like, fuck, I wish I knew that beforehand? Do you know what I mean?
I think that, one of them is how, so if we're going to invest in this, how is it going to multiply? And how much could it multiply? So what's a good result for doing the job that I'm in for?
Yep.
I think the quite a lot of it also is down to personalities. People buy from people, and people inherently have emotions. And if you like it, and if the CEO takes a box of granola back home and the kids like it back home, that's going to have a positive impact effect on just generally how, without all the science and the spreadsheets and everything else, that's someone else's perspective on your thing. And so I suppose the message there is that there's lots of ways of skinning a cat's the wrong phrase in this vegan world, but lots of different perspectives to consider, and different people have different agendas, and I think that's.
What are the most, out of all those different perspectives, what do you think are some of the most underrated perspectives that you weren't thinking about?
Gosh, I actually think that I always take everything down to people, because I think people make the world go round, and I genuinely think that you can sometimes have what you might consider a good buyer or a bad buyer in a sale situation when you're trying to pitch to a buyer at a supermarket. And you will sit in front of that buyer and almost instantly you know whether the meeting's going to go well or not, regardless of anything. You haven't even opened up your laptop or anything. And I think trying to predict that and doing your research on who you're about to sit in front of was pretty key. And the other thing that we sort of planned to do in that situation was to make sure that we had two characters going into the same meeting from our side. One that would lean much more towards the spreadsheets and much more analytical sort of approach. And the other one was much more about how the football was at the weekend and much more kind of creative character. So
which one were you?
I was banned from going in after a while, but we did have these two characters. So when they went in, particularly to see a new buyer, depending how the buyer was, would depend on which guy would lead the meeting from our side. And you get a lot of buyers say, I don't want to see presentations, just talk to me, tell me about it. Some people, I want to see the numbers. And we've all been in that situation. If you're a sales guy, you just have. It's like, oh my God, this is not going well.
Yeah, so I mean, as soon as it comes to numbers, I'm flummoxed. Like, I'm definitely the football at the weekend sort of person.
I would have put you there, yeah.
But what's mental to me, mate, is how, you know, as I said to you, and I called it Exit El Dorado, was you know, El Dorado, where you go to the gold thing, the gold, our long lost underworld gold thing is a program I watched as a kid, or a film, very good. But I did say, as I went to that Houlihan Lokey event, I was like, this is mad. Like, I went in there, everyone was suited and booted. I was just like in this, basically. I was like, I feel so out of place. But it's this Exit El Dorado. It's this, you go along this path and you get there and you're like, wow, it's so different. So different to the fact that you had to do this course, so different to the fact that you had to, you know, the different perspectives and stuff. I think it's just endlessly fascinating. And what I didn't realise is how it kind of boils back to a principle of sales, which is people buy from people.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think that. I just wouldn't think that. I thought it'd be all spreadsheets and numbers, and
there's plenty of that.
There's plenty of, but I thought there would be none of the I almost thought when it gets to, which is so fascinating. And then when you said you were sort of doing your homework on these different people, like you were speaking to, was that different buyers, and like, well, how are you doing that?
Yeah, I think if you're interested in people generally, and you've got a reasonable amount of empathy, it makes sense to just try and morph yourself towards the character you're about to sit in front of. And I think that it. But is that a built-in? Is that something you can train yourself to do? I think if you're aware of it, just in the very first instance, that's a step ahead of many people, I think. And so you're not bulldozing your message; you're actually appreciating, you know, what other people, the inputs of other people.
And what else did you take from that course?
Well, the course really, the reason I did it was I was being asked so much about kind of what just happened last year. It's like, how do you do that? It's like, well, I don't know. I got my version.
yeah.
And I wanted to learn the terminology. I wanted to understand the language and the thought process. And the Saeed guys had a fantastic way of doing it in quite a simple way. So, you know, I'm not a trained accountant or anything, but I could understand kind of the theory behind it all, and I wanted to learn and then be able to put that in motion with the guys who I was talking to, the founders at different companies and what have you. I suppose to try and build a bit of credibility in anything I say.
So in sort of simple 2-year-old language, like what were some of those learnings?
Oh, the best thing. I mean, literally, you don't even have to go on the course these days. You can go on ChatGPT. And I don't know about you, but I have it more open than I do Google. And I always put in, explain like you're explaining to a 7-year-old, what is quantitative easing? You read it out, it's like, well, imagine there's a jar of sweeties, and
Yeah, that's what I'd love to get into that. Like, pretend I am. Yeah, I mean, we've got a jar of sweeties right here, Barney. Just like you knew I was coming.
Well,
but
you
I
haven't been swearing enough.
Yeah, I'll start saying some fuck so I can get. I just wish we had.
That's another one.
Yeah, are they celebrations?
I don't know. There's whatever I can
Yeah,
find.
celebrations are great, but I love.
Swear jar here.
Yeah, the sweat jars there. The swear jars there. If only they were sort of what are the Cadbury's ones, heroes. I'd be swearing every other sentence then.
Just to get another hero.
Yeah, just to get another. That they do the cream egg one, which is just otherworldly. But yeah, so but to pretend I am a 7-year-old, and like, what are those? What are those sort of just really boiling it down to simple language, simple terminology that you took from that course?
So we had a running. We had a few running themes actually. So businesses, and you start. So it was an 8-week course, and the first week you're learning about these 2 storylines. One is a spacesuit company, and the other is a telecoms business that's trying to get Africa online. And you start with the founders and the characters behind it. You then move on to the business plan, and then as you progress, you get into now they want to fundraise, and then now they want to exit. All the way. So those are the themes throughout the whole course, and then all the way through, you had the various stages of, well, they could go and crowdsource, they could speak to angels, they need to bulk up their board members or have some sort of dream team they can fall back on, and all the different steps along the way. Trying to show a sort of full cycle of from startup right the way through to exit. And the assumption is that there's an exit, but for many brands, exit might not be the right idea, and plenty of people carry on. You take people like Charlie Biggins, he's just rocketed, and I don't know what what he's planning to do, when he's had enough. But there's no chat about kind of stepping off. Dyson's another one. So exit doesn't have to, and then a lot of people turn it into lifestyle, and they're earning great cash and just keep earning great cash and employ the kids, and they take over one day, that kind of thing. So there's no formula to it, but the course I went on was trying to appreciate the whole circuit, as it were.
What were some of the hardest modules on that course?
The valuation bit, actually, I found that really difficult, because in my mind, a bit like selling anything, it's as much as someone's prepared to buy it for. And companies are so different. It's not like you can go, well, we've sold 10 cars and they were all this sort of price, and so it's about this sort of price. And if there's hype in there, as you see in the tech world or the crypto world, or some brands are really good at hype, and some brands aren't. And so a lot of it depends on who's going to buy it and why they want to buy it and how desperate they are to buy it. So you get these phenomenal exits where the buying company just wants it, and the good M&A advisor will go, we've got a real hungry one here, and let's get some competitive tension in there and what have you. And they all start off trying to, pinpoint a valuation somehow, and there's lots of different ways of doing that.
What, so when you say the valuation, it's like how much, the multiple of revenue sort of, or like, yeah, because again, it's so nebulous to me. It's like...
It is typically kind of 2 main ways of valuing something. It's either on the profit that the company's making, or the market share that someone might be buying. And typically with smaller businesses with sort of 20, 30 million or so, and I say doesn't sound small, but that's kind of when trade might scoop down. Because a lot of these companies, Weetabix can make that profit in a weekend promo. I mean, it just makes us all feel so small. Where did I get to?
Yeah, but how you evaluate the 2 things in 2 different ways.
So profit or net revenue, and net revenue is after promotion, which is something that we never really recognised until going through that 2022 moment. A lot of people report on retail revenue, so what's going through the till, which is a little bit disingenuous because it's not their turnover, it's the retailer's turnover. And then a lot of people do, over the last 3 years, this was our revenue added together. So there's an awful lot of weird reporting that goes on out there.
Wait, so over the last 3 years, how could you fudge the numbers on that?
Well, people, if you were reading an IM, a one-page investment memorandum, which I've read a few, there are a number that they might have been in business for 3-4 years or so, and they just add up their whole revenue and their volume, and they go 1 million.
There you go, mate. Yeah.
And so it's not annualized. And I suppose no one's saying what the rules are, but if you are going to invest, you need to know what you're comparing stuff to, and how you assess the value of stuff. So that world is difficult. And I think also there's a lot of people who, particularly in the startup world where they're coming out the hatches, they've done their first year, second year maybe, they've got a revenue of 500,000 or so, and they go, we're valuing it at 4 million. It's like, well, we're based on what? Well, we think we're going to get a listing in somewhere next year. It's like, so you're going to bake in that maybe listing into your 4 million. And you end up having quite awkward conversations with people if you want to invest.
Also, there's that whole thing Adam from Innocent was telling me about Giles was about the hollow revenue curse. So it's like you base your rate of sale on your first, say, 100 stores, and then you assume as you extrapolate that to 1,000.
Nice straight lines.
Yeah, that the rate of sale will stay the same. But obviously, like if you've got those 900 of those stores could be nowhere near your core customer or in the arse end of nowhere. It just pillages your revenue because you've based it on this hollow forecasting. I think that's been one of the biggest learnings from the podcast, and something that, as I say, like I'm not as close to it anymore, but I speak to so many brands, and that those things happen to us at Manulife. You think, we go into a big retailer like Co-op, and then oh fuck, it's
that's another one.
Oh yeah, there you go. And then
I think that's quite interesting because you often, but again, if it's a year 2, year 3, even year 5, you might be investing in something that it's not necessarily about their performance to date, but the opportunity ahead. So they might have some clever way of manufacturing something that no one else has, or they might have found something that actually, if they do get it right, this thing could explode. So again, you can't use kind of rates of sale figures, because it might be that they start on this product, but then they twist out and they turn into something else which could massively accelerate, but it's not even made yet. And so you get back down to the people behind the brand. Are these people capable and hungry enough to and got that persistence to actually build this thing, or do they have second jobs which they could fall back on if they needed to, if all things went to shit?
Yeah, I love one thing I've been thinking about a lot is just the all-in thing. Like something magical happens when you go all, like this is what I did with this, but like when you just go all in, like, there's nothing else happening. Like I'm quite a spiritual person, but I believe all these, like the universe does come behind your back and just like, I'm going to try to help you and force you through this hard pit. But as you say, all your chips in, it's like a beautiful thing. Scary, but beautiful.
Well, it makes it much more high risk. And interestingly, with our fresh marketing thing, we didn't go all in with fuel. We had fresh marketing to fall back on. But before Fuel 10K, we made loads of other mistakes.
Yeah, talk to me about that, because I think the greater the wound, the greater the wisdom. And I'd love to go into some of those mistakes where the wound at the time was sore, deep, felt like sort of vinegar in the wound. It was horrible, but retrospectively, it's linked to the retrospective strategy stuff. There's a lot of wisdom in those wounds. Like, what was maybe the one or two? Maybe even to get more specific, like, actually, no, whatever you think those are, actually, to begin with.
I like that analogy. I think the other one is necessity is the greatest motivator. If you need something, you're more likely to get up earlier in the morning and beg, borrow, steal harder. If it's all slightly gifted to you and you've got £1 million in the bank because you've just raised lots of money, you kind of get a little bit more, I don't know, less kind of protective about it. But I had left Innocent Drinks in 2005, the end of 2005, so nearly 20 years ago.
And how many, we'll get onto the wounds, but just to give some context, like how big was the business then in terms of people and revenue?
I think it was about 30 million or so turnover at the time. It zipped off to whatever it is now. And I'd been there 5 years, and I knew that if I wasn't going to jump off anytime soon, it was going to become more and more difficult. Got married, had the first kid on the way. We really liked the idea of moving to Dorset, which we did. And I never really meant to leave the space rocket that was Innocent Drinks, but it wasn't my doing. I learned an amazing sort of MBA life, as it were, with incredible people, and just got very lucky. But I needed to do my own thing. So that was a tough thing. And so Fresh Marketing was formed to then help challenger brands at that time launch into international markets, because my last role at Innocent was to try and open up new markets. So I kind of felt I knew roughly how to make it work. And so took on a few early brands, and then over time built up Fresh Marketing, but realized that when those challenger brands sold, or things changed, or management direction, or they hire an export manager, they don't need the services of Fresh Marketing anymore. So we needed to build something that would build our own capital and something of our own value, which meant doing our own brand. And so we started looking at things that we could create. We launched the first flavoured popcorn brand in this country. There was a company in America called Oogie's, and I got loads of samples of their product. Found a manufacturer who was making cinema popcorn. We decided to go air popped rather than oil popped, thinking that was the healthier way to go. We had balsamic vinegar flavour, and we had chili chipotle, and all the kind of funky flavours of that time. But we didn't have any money, and the product wasn't actually that good, and the brand was just off the chart crazy. It basically a combination of all the brands that I'd ever seen all poured into one, which was messy. Diva popcorn, it was called. And so that actually didn't work. It was just when Metcalfe popcorn was coming out, and so we were both trying to fight for the Sainsbury's listing. He won it. We got into nice food service areas, and we're just starting to get going. And then our manufacturer got bought, and they decided they weren't going to make third-party brands, so we were left without a manufacturer, so we had to go and find another one. By that time, the great popcorn wars of whatever year this is, 2010 probably, erupted, and anyone could buy a popcorn machine on a credit card. And I think at one point, Tesco had 6 own-label flavoured popcorn products, and we were just kind of, we missed our opportunity. Tried another thing. We got involved in soup. We launched a coconut water brand. We did a first production up a mountain in Austria where coconuts don't grow, and all the bottles panelled on the first production, and the label then had a fold over which went over the barcodes, and on the barcodes was chaos after chaos after chaos. But eventually the fuel opportunity came along, and we found a chance encounter with a Tesco buyer who said, "Bring me the Red Bull of granola." And so we started out being an energy granola, and then soon twisted into becoming a protein granola, and then added other bits and pieces from porridge to drinks to bars.
Amazing. And then what were, as I said, what were those sort of deep wounds that provided lots of wisdom on that journey?
I think the more you run your own business, the more you feel you are deeply unemployable. So that was probably the necessity is the greatest motivator. I think the deep wounds, I'd never call it, mistakes are cool. You learn from mistakes. I call them heffalump traps. You fall into heffalump traps.
Heffalump.
Heffalump is a Winnie the Pooh and... No,
Yeah.
Holes in the ground, and they're trying to catch the heffalump, but no one's seen a heffalump.
It's interesting, again, that's a very nuanced point, is the word mistake versus failure. And I think there's this whole thing of failure porn, which I see like a lot of... people talk about on socials as like, we want to fail fast, fail. To fail is awful. To fail is to close your business. and also encouraging a culture where people fail is fucking stupid in my opinion.
Oh, there's
Another one. That's the last one.
I
But
was going to start again.
The idea of mistakes cultures, that's brilliant, because mistakes are like a little learning nuggets of wisdom, and you want lots of mistakes, because mistakes, sort of speaking to Henry Dimbleby about mistakes, if you apply this to sort of evolutionary terms, are adaptive. It's that trial error, stronger. But it's those little errors. But the word failure, I think there's failure porn going around, which I just think's kind of, it's not good. And you see these big figures in social media being like, yeah, we just fail the whole time. It's like, failure's not good. But mistakes are beautiful.
Test and learn, I think. This is the reason, I think, why big companies buy small companies. The culture in a big company typically is that there's a lot of middle management that aren't encouraged to take risk. And if you're not encouraged to take risk, then you're not going to know whether it would have worked or not would have worked, because a long spreadsheet, and crikey, life is about taking risk. If you put kids on a spreadsheet, you'd never have them. It's scary numbers. And so I think the change makers are the people who are prepared to take that risk, and often it might not work out. And entrepreneurship's not for everyone either. It's not for the faint-hearted, and it also suits certain life periods of your own life. But when you're racked in debt from a mortgage, and you've got a load of kids to feed and what have you, your risk profile changes as well. And so there are moments in your life when this is going to be more suitable. But I love I came across a thing, I don't know if you've come across this term called skunk works. So Skunk Works was adopted by Lockheed Martin. It was one of the big engineering companies, and basically they recognised that the smaller companies around them were growing at speed and innovating quicker, and they were like this big sort of juggernaut and just couldn't produce the innovation they wanted. And they were going, well, we could buy them, I suppose. What they decided to do was to lock on to the side of the big juggernaut business this concept of a high-powered innovation team that could use all the resources from the big business without any of the red tape. And they were encouraged to take risk, try things out, try new things, with the resources of this big thing, but not to the detriment, if they failed, of the big business. And I've started seeing quite a lot of that in big industry. The supermarkets are doing it with their innovation teams, and the apiary and the brands new, and there are one or two others as well. Big companies like Tetra Pak and the packaging firms, and even Nielsen, IQ, big, huge companies are trying to get in at that innovation level, but they're terrified of doing that. So they're actually creating teams to make that happen. And I think all we was that team without the big juggernaut. We were prepared to take the risk. The problem is we didn't have a job afterwards if it didn't work out.
And and then the mistakes that provided really delicious learnings, what were some of those?
Oh, crikey. I mean, where do you start?
You keep going, I'm just going to check these cameras.
I think so many. It's a series of mistakes, I suppose. I do think that you make your own luck, and a mistake is not to try and make your own luck. And what I mean by luck is putting yourself in the path of luck by making yourself look as attractive as possible and doing a lot of the right things. Because you're learning on the job, and eventually good things start happening. But you've got to get through the chaos of the mistakes first to figure out what that is.
What was the chaos of mistakes?
But the chaos of mistakes would be that we would try to go too fast in places. You'd take a listing and they give you 600 stores. It should have probably been 200 stores. You haven't got your order profiles right. You're not hiring ahead of the curve. You haven't got any money. What are you going to do if you're paid late by your customers, and how your cash flow is going to work? So every time we came across a problem, we would try and seek to remedy it and put a cork in it. and wait for the next thing. And literally, we would wait, and there would be some other horrific thing that would happen, and quickly go and solve that, put a remedy and cork it, and off to the next one.
Well, that's the adaptive thing, isn't it? Remedy, cork it is making the body stronger. Is the evolutionary.
And there's
angle.
no book.
There's no book.
Course.
Yeah. You just need to. Yeah, as you say, there's just the constant tinkering and trial and error, and I think. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know who I was speaking to this about, but there's a guy called Matt Ridley who wrote The Rational Optimist, who's a genius, one of the best books I've ever read. And he talks about like we love these sort of godlike figures throughout the whole of history, and sort of mythic figures. And today, entrepreneurs are those figures. We levitate sort of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, these almost mad genius and stuff, which they are. But his whole point is it's like. Once you pull past that curtain, it's basically just dogged persistence. As Michael Palin says, keep buggering on and just trial error, or like find the error, cork it next. And when people see entrepreneurs as actually that, we want to sort of, as I say, mythologize these people as sort of these godlike figures, whereas actually it's just dogged persistence and trial and error. It's basically what you're saying there. It's like. Right, mistake. What's the next one? That'll make us better.
It's a bit like the lion at the end of the yellow brick road. We all think he's this big, terrifying lion, but you pull back the curtain, it's like, ooh.
Yes.
And you were saying earlier, you see the head of the duck, but you don't see the paddling going on underneath.
And that's basically my whole life. Is the swan analogy. Let's talk about innocent. So you're employee number 7.
007.
007. Amazing. Describe what it's like walking to the office on a Tuesday morning in that sort of first year. Describe the scene, paint the picture for me.
Wow. I always struggled with commuting. So as soon as I got the job, I moved very, very close. So my walk was about 150 metres.
They were still in Ladbroke Grove?
No, they weren't Ladbroke Grove. They were down on Goldhawk Road in Brackenbury Village. So that's where I was.
Brackenbury Village, where's that?
That's Goldhawk Road, Shepherd's Bush.
Okay, yeah.
And then they actually moved to Ladbroke. I never worked up there. I left before then. It was, for me, it was a revelation. And I've thanked the 3 founders many times for opening the lid on what can be done. The 3 of them were incredibly smart guys, and I just learned on like this. Learn how to do it a different way. I think Innocent were pioneers in a way that we can never really appreciate. And I actually assumed that all other brands were doing the same sort of thing until I left, and it was like, okay, that was a really unique experience.
That's what Adam was saying to me on the pod. He was saying that it's so commonplace to sort of codify your values. But back then it was so revolutionary, is what he was saying to me.
Yeah, they basically wrote the book for B Corps without even realising it.
Yeah.
We were doing all of that, even in our second, third year. There was an Innocent Foundation set up while I was there. There was so much unique sort of gifting to Age UK with the woolly hats. There's some pioneering sort of marketing things that went on too. But it was great. It was really, really phenomenal. And I ended up sitting in front of the Starbucks buyer trying to put together a pitch saying, no, we are a serious company. And we wanted to dress up in suits for that particular one, just so they would take us seriously. And then they realised that was a joke too. And I was there just as we were getting into supermarkets as well. It was just a phenomenal sort of fast growth, high octane, a lot of learning on the job, but with really smart skippers at the helm.
If you're a challenger brand that's absolutely killing it in D2C, but you're struggling to crack retail, then you've got to listen to this. Maybe you've got an Ocado listing, maybe you've got a Whole Foods listing, maybe you're absolutely killing it in Selfridges, maybe you're absolutely killing it in your farm shop and your indies. But my friends, making the leap, crossing El Chasm, crossing El Rubicon to grocery retail is not easy. It's the Champions League of FMCG. It's super hard. It means playing at a higher level And that's where so many amazing brands sadly stumble. Look, retailers want stories backed by data, not dreams and a pretty pitch deck. And let's be real, supermarkets are not just going to magically make a space for you and your little brand. They need data. Something's got to go for you to get in, for you to get on shelf. And that is why I've got to tell you about Northstar. They are the team that's helping purpose-led FMCG brands go from gut instinct dreams to unstoppable pitch decks that actually unlock retailers. Northstar are not like another data company that force feed you data like foie gras, that act like a NASA space mission. It's super simple to use. Their team are amazing and they actually get the challenger mindset. Northstar are your shortcut to smarter decisions, stronger pitches and investor confidence, all built specifically for challenger brands like yours. You don't need a massive sales team, you need Northstar. Link in the show notes, click that link and you'll be able to book a free demo with Northstar. Highly recommend that, and thank me later. And yeah, so what I'm trying to get into is that we're going to eventually get onto this is retrospect strategizing. But when you are walking into the office, and I don't know how old you are, but you're in point number 7, it's a Tuesday morning, it's in Hawkers Road, wherever it was. Like, did the 7 of you in that team know how big this thing you were creating was going to be? Or is it like, we're just trying to take it day by day and build an amazing juice company?
So I was 25 when I joined them.
Right.
I had about 4 years or so after uni, in between there and there, jumping from almost every single job you can imagine, trying to figure out what I was good at, what I wasn't good at, what I enjoy, what I didn't enjoy, what skill set did I have and what industry did I want to put it into. I worked at Parcel Force on the helpline. I had 5 phone lines coming into my one number and I had to keep, and everyone was angry every time I picked up the phone. I worked in St Thomas's Hospital wheeling patients around. I worked in a bank in the City of London and had to borrow a suit and a tie to walk over London Bridge. Just loads of experiences, which I would implore any kind of young person to just go and figure out what you don't like and what you do like. But when I landed in Innocent that first Tuesday, I felt like I'd found my thing. It was something tangible. It was in the food and drink industry where you use your 5 senses, your smell, your touch, your taste. Everybody understood it. And when I explained what I did to people, they kind of knew what I did. They didn't at the time know what a smoothie was. My poor parents thought beside themselves going, what's this next one? Because no one knew what it was going to then turn into. I just got really lucky. And this is back to the point of putting yourself in the path of luck. And I was very lucky to find them. They launched me into the food industry. I had a commercial role, so I think the commercial role is the best role because you get to see every part of the business. You need to have a little bit of lots of things, from operations, marketing, finance, and the sale and the close. I wouldn't swap that for anything. So back strategizing, I meant to join this upstart back in 2005. Back in 2000 it was. So 2000, so that's 24 years ago. You can guess my age now. But it took those 4 years to find my yin or yang, or whatever you want to call it, which then catapulted me off into this new sort of direction.
And what were you talking about in the office? Like you said, there are 3 great skippers. I'd love to go into, like, as I said, I've spoken to Adam about how he got it up to 100 employees and what he was doing to manage it then. But I've never sort of learned about that sort of when it's 7 people in an office. Because there'll be lots of people listening to this who have got teams of 7 to 15. So like, what were they saying to you? You said they're great skippers. How are they being prudent? How are they showing the prudent path to the future? Like,
I think the 2 big things for me. One was how inspirational the 3 of them were in their own fields. So they dovetailed each other very well. There was one on marketing, one on operations, and then Adam was in the middle, pretty much kind of overseeing the whole thing, but he was the commercial guy. So they each had their own areas, and each of them were phenomenally brilliant at their areas. And what they were also very good at doing was this word strategy, forward strategy, not back strategy. And what I always found every year that we were there, whatever they said at the beginning of the year actually happened. It was like...
Such as?
Like they set a number that we were aiming for, and we're going to launch this number of flavours, and we're going to have a team this big, and we're going to get cow vans in and grass vans and dancing this, and we're going to put on a festival in the park. And everything they said, they delivered. And I used to think, wow, these guys are just Midas touch. But they were very good at creating a strategy that seemed to hang together. But then what they were even better at was doing what they said they were going to do, which made them very investable. Because when you're clear about your purpose and your end goal, and then you deliver it, which that's pretty rare in this day and age. Just got to look at the politicians around us. But let's not go there.
Yeah.
And so what were we talking about? It was like, well, they were very good at pooling our thought, our energy, the way we saw our perspective on things, and brought that into the middle and then created a strategy. And then we all went, right, we've all decided, we've all input, we're going this way. And we worked hard, really hard. But you've wanted to, because you didn't want to let anyone down. They got that culture there. That
how do they do that though? 'Cause
I don't know.
It's like, that's what I'm trying to really dig at and sort of chip away at.
Culture's the most important thing to get right, because that, people is everything, as we've said already.
Yeah.
If you get an energized team, they can work at tens, if not hundreds of % better than if they're not kind of motivated in the right way.
You said high octane. Giles has described his time at Innocent as high octane. Like, unpack that a bit more. Like, describe what's high octane day to day.
I think just the fury of the workload. I think it was the laser focus. A bit like you were saying earlier. You've gone all in. You put all your chips over. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. We were all in. There was not much time for anything else, frankly. And I was at a stage in my life where I was so happy to just do nothing else but sell smoothies. And I would go off on big trips, and I had my own little cow van with a tail and these eyelashes, and it mooed. And I'd go off around Scotland and Ireland and down to Cornwall and all the fringes of the GB.
And how old were Adam and stuff at this point?
A couple of years older than me, I guess. So
That's mad how they were so young.
Yeah.
Like, they were so young in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Were they what? They were like 24, 25 when they set that up?
They would start in 99, so they were about that.
That's so nuts.
Maybe
what they've actually achieved. And then, so I think high octane is really interesting, and it's that word which, again, a lot of brands not necessarily talk about, is like intensity. And it's that sort of just like that. Again, one of the obvious examples of someone like Bold Bean or Perfect Ted. You just see it in their team. It's just that kind of like
committed to the cause.
Yeah.
But again, back to the team thing. You've got to have the right team. And I think anyone listening to this, I spent so much time trying to finesse that at Fuel 10K, trying to get the best players in the right place and understanding what motivated them. A bit like we were saying, the supermarket buyer wants to sell more than the predecessor so that they can get this and that and the other. It's the same as any staffer as well. They've got things that are really important to them that you might not understand as a founder or a boss, that will change their energy. It could,
an example of that
could be a day a week. It could be I'm really crap in the morning. Can I come in at 10? It could be detail like that. It could be job title. It could be actually I want to be seen as a bigger piece of this. I know you can't give me shares in it, but can I come on the right? And so you might do a press release about an individual who's done particularly well and put them up in the spotlight, which costs you nothing but gives them a huge amount. Share options was a key one as we got nearer to the finish line, and also making people feel like they own their bit. So you ask everyone's opinion all the time. If you're the crusading founder and no one's got a chance to chip in, you're gonna lose some of your team along the way, because they won't necessarily trust your single judgment. So better together and everyone pumping on all cylinders.
And what are some of the other learnings you took from sort of Fruit Tower? Well, you weren't at Fruit Towers, but like from the innocent.
Well, it was called Fruit Towers then.
It was called Fruit Towers.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are some of the learnings you took from Fruit Towers? Some of the underrated learnings that you think are responsible for Fuel 10K's success ultimately.
I think I probably learned the word perspective there. Certainly team.
Sorry, perspective.
Perspective, yeah.
As in
when you are doing a sale process to someone, you look at it from whoever you're selling to's point of view, rather than just your own.
Yeah.
I think the team bit is probably the biggest thing that I took from it. I couldn't duplicate their processes. I couldn't duplicate Juice, and their brand was off the chart, which again, I'm not a brand person. Like that, they poured so much energy into that in a very incredible way. So when I created the fresh marketing with my business partner, and then tried all of these other projects and brands, and then eventually got to Fuel, I knew the bits that I was strong at, but the bits that I wasn't so good at, we really needed to try and hire in the very best. I'd call myself a generalist. I like lots of shiny things, and but I'm not actually particularly good at anything.
Well, that's what Adam said to me along the curve. He goes, start with lots of bright generalists, and as you scale up, go to, I think, meaningful specifics or expertise, specialist expertise and shit like that. But like that's
exactly it.
Yeah,
he's got that bang on, and he got a bang on generalist bunch like us, which is why an awful lot of that first cohort.
Who else was in that 7 or 8 or 10 with you?
Gosh, I mean, during those first 2 years, we took on a number of different people who then went off and did their own thing. So Mike Stevens went off and did Peppersmith. Paul Brown took on Bowl. Bronte set up a Scandinavian restaurant. Lots of people did interesting things out of innocent. But that first cohort, and it's not really a surprise that the cohorts afterwards, because they were more specialist, they weren't necessarily the more, dare I say it, entrepreneurial minded. They knew their thing, but that's what they were comfortable with.
Yeah, it's mad, and it's like, I think if we zoom out, and it's again back to this that Rational Optimist book is like, when you zoom out, you can see, when you zoom out, look at things over 50, 60, 70 year time periods, you realize how positive things have become and how good they are. And actually, it's like everyone kind of, I know it's hard at the minute, but people say it's really hard to build a brand at the minute. I'm like, it's never been easier. Like, to get access to funding, you can actually speak to your buyers on fucking LinkedIn. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Another one. It's never been easier. And I think if we really zoom out, and it's the whole thing of, bad news travels quickly, good news travels slowly. But when you zoom out, there'll be a dot on the Challenger brand timeline, which is Innocent's creation. And then then Fuel 10K is born, and then a whole myriad of different brands are born, and then those brands then lead to, again, if we're zooming out, to sort of Pip and Nut, Jimmy's Iced Coffee, and then Emoji, then that leads to, and it's like this. But what those three, Adam,
they built the roots to start.
Yes,
the roots.
It's mad, and it's like stuff that we look back on now and think, that it's, of course, you decode, you put you codify your values, but that was just so revolutionary. And it's mad, just hearing your experience of.
That's what I love. That's what I love about our industry, is that there's so many people having a go. We're really innovative here in the UK, and you look at America, and they're pretty good at it, but they got a lot more cash swilling around than we do. And you can go to the Silicon Valley of food, which is the Expo West trade show in Anaheim.
I'm going to that in.
Do it. I go every year, and you literally look into the future of what's about to come over, and then you'll see mushroom crisps everywhere, or new tropics, or whatever it is, hit hard, and then there'll be a sort of receding ebb, and then 2 or 3 will stick with it, and it may stay or not. And that's where we got the idea for protein. We saw that protein was normalizing. It wasn't just for the gym junkie. It was, you have an 8 hours sleep. The best thing in the morning is to have some protein. We weren't trying to be a sports nutrition brand. We were just trying to be a bit better than what was there already. But we did focus on flavor, taste, price. Because if we didn't do that, we just wouldn't have ever got out the hatches.
Let's talk about export then, because I know Fresh Marketing was your export business, which kind of fueled the brand, pardon the pun there. But I think there's an art and a science to export. Science whereby it's like being quite pragmatic and prudent about which countries you go into. First thing, so that's the science. The art is almost like the nuance on the ground. My example of this is Rude Health, who I spoke to Camilla about, and who I've got a lot of friends at Rude Health, or had a lot of friends, and they've sort of sold on, but like they did really well in Portugal and really well in Costa Rica. And I was in Costa Rica at the beginning of the year for a month and a half. And I was like, fucking hell, Rude Health's everywhere. Like, it's crazy. And I was like, this is wild. Like, you're in Portugal and Rude Health's everywhere, and then you're in Costa Rica and Rude Health's everywhere. And so there is this sort of science, and that's real, like, art, I suppose, is where you go. Science is how you get in. And then what is discombobulating to me is when I went over to Ireland, and this is what I was speaking to Gary about the other day, but we did Duns, got Money Life into Duns. And I went over there, so this is very kind of naive, thinking, it's only just over there. It'll be basically like here. My God, it's how wildly complex and different and just perplexing it is. So like, you've obviously done lots of export. Like, what would you say for Challenger Brands is best practice in terms of the science of, like, do you go into lots of countries? Do you go into one country and absolutely nail it? Do you even need to go into another country? First part. Second part is, what's the nuance on the ground across different brands? Like, the consumers, like, where is the consumer different? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's...
Yeah, I've got a pretty clear view on this. And it does very much depend on what kind of a business you're trying to build. If you're building a lifestyle business that you're not necessarily planning to exit from anytime soon, then export can be really fun. You can go to Gulf Food in Dubai and get it into Spinneys or Lulu over there, and then over to Singapore, and there's some wonderful kind of stores out there. But it's quite a lot of paperwork, not much volume, and actually you can't really support it properly from over here.
Is it just a great thing to say to your mates at the pub?
Oh yeah, I'm in, and then someone.
I'm in Singapore, buddy.
Yeah. Look what I saw at the airport.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a bit of ego massaging to do of any founder that wants to just go and see what it's like, and I probably recommend anyone does go to these shows if they can afford it, and or at least just go and visit. But the real thing. So if we're talking about exiting. And you put yourself at that exit point, and you've just been bought, and you look backwards. What were all the things that you did that created value to maximize the value of your business? The theory goes that you plow all your energy into getting your one market, your home market, absolutely pumping, because any time spent not on that is distracting from the core. And then if you get to a certain size, or you've got some sort of opening where you can start seeding another big market, America, Germany, Australia, South Africa, Portugal, and you start what I call, you do the planning permission in that market. You don't necessarily have to do it, which can be immensely expensive. If you imagine how much you've poured into trying to get the UK going. And then you're talking about, and we're going to go and launch in America now. It's like, really? I mean, that's big bucks. But what you can do is set up an Amazon account that you can try and target a Costco or you can try and do a little bit of bricks and mortar, but not the whole thing, because you can get sucked in very quickly. And then you start shelling out for kind of slotting fees and agents and all sorts of things. Does depend what sort of product and brand you've got, but you don't idly wander into that market, because what might happen is that you could have a really good business in the UK, fail in the US, and your buyer goes, we've just done the due diligence on you and we love your UK business, but we thought we were going to grow you out in the US, and you've been there and slightly ruined the market. And so you've got to be quite cautious of that sort of thing. Although all the things that we did, we looked at almost everything.
What markets did you go into at Fuel 10K?
So we looked at America. We actually had a listing in Walmart. We were doing very good numbers in Asda. Walmart owned Asda. They could see our numbers. We did a tour of all the retailers that we thought were the ones we wanted to speak to in America. So literally phoned up from here and planned a trip and got
Which ones did you go and see?
meetings with buyers, Publix, Kroger, I mean the Whole Foods, the whole lot of them really. I think there were about 8 or 9 of them, and we came back with this listing with Walmart, 2,000 stores, East Coast. We were like, oh my God, this is amazing. But it meant having to set up local manufacture. There were an awful lot of issues at the time with import duties of dairy products, and they wanted our porridge pots and our breakfast drinks. And so...
It's all good. Yeah.
Whilst it all looked very exciting, and we did set up a company, Fuel 10K Inc. in Delaware, we looked at everything. At the 11th hour, we decided to pull back and say, do you know what, we're not big enough in the UK, and this is a massive distraction, and it could be very painful if it doesn't work.
It's interesting. Distractions masquerade as opportunities, I think. And I think one of the things from like scars or mistakes or learning is being able to like, and I think it's something you can only build through experience, is that ability to sort of say, this is a distraction masquerading as an opportunity. It's 2,000 stores in America, but it takes real sort of gumption to pull back from that. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah,
like,
big man walking away. I'm naturally a sort of positive sales kind of guy. And that was painful.
Yeah.
And that was lucky that I had a business partner and a management team that were like, should we just get some hard truths around this? So this is what will happen if. And so we started...
What were some of those hard truths?
The scenario playing of what happens. Okay, so you get on Walmart and you got to get this hurdle rate, and we got to get loads of product there. The minimum production runs were 4 times bigger than what we were used to over here. So that was one, the cash flow required. We also, Fuel 10K Inc. was a new business, and that was going to be the trading company, and there was no credit history on that. So we were going to pay for 4 times the production runs on pro forma. So cash flow, we were buggered already. And it all just seemed, what way can we make this work? Why can't we, there must be a way to make this work. But I think having set back and then also seen a number of other UK brands do the same thing, and some of them went for it and then it didn't really work. And they had to pull back, and the time that it takes to exit a market like that is quite painful. But actually much better would have been to just do a little bit, just get a few pallets over there and get it into a mom and pop store and just prove that Americans want to buy your product. And then if you feel a little bit more that you can push it, let's get onto Amazon, or let's go for just one retailer, but not the biggest in the world. Let's go for something a bit more regional and manageable.
Again, it's mad how it's just like, it's kind of it's building the grassroots like you would over here with the indies, but just doing it over there.
Yeah.
What are some of the... So I think, again, this is what I talked to Adam about there was a period of time when he was like dead set on France working. And he just knew, but he was getting a shitload of heat from the board. And he was basically like, he was having to be pretty like stoic and you know, having the courage of his convictions to say France is going to work. But it was like very much like it was a thread of a needle sort of thing, or hanging by a thread. And he managed to turn it around. And he was just like, look, we're doing well in these 10 stores. It will eventually, if we put enough in there, it will work. And he managed to make it work. What are some of the countries you've gone into which have been like a roaring success? And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be with fuel. It can be with like any of the brands you've gone into, like some random countries. So
the French thing's quite interesting.
So how does it work in France? You've got Carrefour.
Yeah, you've got a bunch of retailers. Not all of them operate in the same way as what we're used to here. Quite a lot of them are sort of fragmented. So you might get a central listing, but then you had to sell to all the individual stores.
Yeah.
They're like Spar, I suppose, here. Like Leclerc is like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got Group Casino, that also owns a number of fascias as well. So you have to understand the whole kind of layout of it. And when I left Innocent, I was opening up new markets, and France was our first market. And when I left Innocent, I wanted to go and try and make France work because I was so determined it could work. At the time, the 3 guys were at Innocent were looking at the States through the Starbucks deal that they'd done in the UK. It was looking like there could be a Starbucks opening in America. So in my view, that was a distraction. And so they have America, and maybe I could have Innocent in France. And so I became a sort of agent for Innocent for that first year there. And we opened up Monoprix and Casino and got into some of the smaller food servicey stores, but it was so hard. I had such confidence that having been frontline sales, I just every door I knocked on in the UK and then Ireland as well, the door opened. I would just say, just put free bottle on the shelf, and I'll come back next week. And if it's gone, will you place an order? And almost every time it worked like that.
And that was happening in France.
And that wasn't happening in France. It wasn't. It
Why
wasn't.
do you think that was?
It wasn't as straightforward. I think the French struggled a little bit with. They're just not as early adoptery as we are generally. And I could go on quite a lot longer about that. But
go on.
No, I can't.
Why?
I'll get in trouble. We're just different.
Yeah.
And France is also not a particularly entrepreneurial country. What's really interesting, though,
lazy around smoking fags on the beach. I'm joking. But getting on a pan au chocolat and be moody for a few hours.
You said it. But the word entrepreneur is a French word. Entre means between, and preneur is a taker.
That's hilarious that they're the least entrepreneurial country.
So
that sums it up.
Entrepreneur is between taker. So, not an in-betweener, like between taker. And it's really good, that saying, I think, because literally that's what entrepreneurs do. They go, there's the market, and this is my product, and I'm going to take the bit in the middle. Genius. But so, and you can probably go back through history as to why they're the way they are. And so a funky little juice brand with a weird, quirky brand, and lots of colour and T-shirt.
What is this?
Cow bands and things.
Yeah.
Like literally, just go 'em.
Yeah.
But a massive experience. But it still came back down to consumers.
So was that the issue? Was not the retailers; it was the consumer.
No, it was the retailers. Yeah, they're just very hierarchical. So you'd never have entrepreneurial buyers in there, which you do in the UK. I think there are some buyers who want to buy because they want to buy well and buy the right things. Whereas in France, it's like the big boss makes all the decisions. And trying to send a message through this guy up the chain to the big boss is like, nah.
What are the other, if we were to sort of look at the panoply of different consumers, maybe across Europe, like what would you say are some of the other nuances with all the countries you've exported to?
Oh, so I used to always think the Germans, the Dutch, the French, that's a wonderful sort of combo. You couldn't meet more different people in all three of those countries.
How are they different?
From a business point of view.
Yeah.
So for example, if you wanted to go into Germany, it's actually quite price sensitive. It's also a very fragmented retail environment. The buyers were very forthright, so they tell you exactly what you think, what they think rather. So there's no beating around the bush. This is the English guy. And I think they kind of roll their eyes at how we're never able to actually say what we mean. We have to speak in verse, Shakespearean background or whatever. English people waffle, and German people just say it how it is. But you know exactly where you stand with them, which The
Irish, I was talking about this with Gary, sort of the amalgamation of both of those things. Because it's like, he was basically saying, in Ireland, you have storytelling born into your blood. And we basically said because the weather's so crap and Ireland was such a dump, as his exact words, for so many years. It's only until late 90s that it started to get, people didn't want to leave Ireland because it was getting better. Because we've got this culture of storytelling on the one hand, and all the I think he was saying the amount of big hitters out of such a small nation in business are Irish is crazy. But then he also said, he's like, we're so direct, and I learnt this from negotiating with Duns, it's like, pick up the phone and tell me what you want. Yeah. Whereas English were like, let's just talk about this and then say this.
This is what I say to the founders and people who want to, ask for investment. It's like, just say it. Don't think I can't guess what you're trying to say in your roundabout sort of way. It's just like, spit it out.
Yeah, it's such an interesting
I went on a media training thing. Not that I'm particularly good at it. But I went. It was called Pink Elephant, and you're out there. I'm going to give you a plug. I thought it was so brilliant. I put my 2 eldest kids on exactly the same course because it was about how to communicate with people and effective communication. Lots of other bits and pieces. But the one big thing I got out of it was at the beginning of your email, the first thing you say is what you want. Don't go, how's the weather? Isn't it brilliant? I'm wearing a coloured T-shirt. And, oh, can I have? And then bury it in the sort of text beneath. It's like, just say it right at the top. And because so many people skim read everything, they don't have time to read everything. I put it in bold and I'll highlight it in yellow. I'm here to talk about, and I need you an answer by... and here's all the stuff if you want to read the stuff underneath.
So interesting. Turn
Turn it round because there's the explainer and then the ask at the bottom. By the time you get to the ask, if you're lucky they even got there, it's like...
Yeah, it's just interesting
Put it at the top.
for me with cold outreach to getting guests, getting big guests. Is it's like I always start with like a story. So I basically
You
write
just
a
say,
story.
I want to make you famous. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to make you famous.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So trying to remove the waffle. So back to the stereotypes, and apologies to all my friends in different
No, it's
countries and
it's
stuff.
interesting to get. You're the best person to speak to about this because you've had your tentacles in so many bloody countries that.
I'd say that's Germany, and the retail world there works quite differently to France. And so in France, I always found that you'd have a wonderful long meeting with them, often much longer than normal. And what I discovered was that they actually wanted to know what you did at the weekend and who you're, do you like wine? And well, let's go for lunch, and a lot of lunch and stuff.
Yeah.
And at the end,
You did very well there, I think.
you'd invested so much time in it, and then you go, well, what do you think? And they go, why not? And in the end, the words "why not" meant I'm not quite ready to do anything. Actually, I need to know a bit more about you.
Yeah.
And the French have this meniscus that you have to pierce. And
What's an meniscus?
so the skin on water, I don't know why I call it that, but water has skin and it goes up like this, and you've got to kind of pop through in.
Oh, that is this like science
another analogy,
list.
sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just biology. I
I'm
always
trying to
used to
think of
switch
another
off
one.
and draw on my hand during biology or whatever it was. But yeah,
But they have an meniscus that you got to pierce through, and once you get through that, then they are incredibly loyal people, and they trust you, and actually you can get quite far in France, but you have to go through that charade before you actually get anywhere in France.
And then the Dutch.
The Dutch, a bit like the Irish and the Portuguese, spent their entire careers crusading the world, trading in silk and all sorts, big boaty people, a bit of the Brits as well. And they have a much more traderish attitude. They will be your best friend when you meet them. And I've got a number of Dutch friends who I think are still friends. But when the next thing comes along, they'll leave you for that and they'll jump into bed with the next person, not literally. And so the loyalty bit, in my experience, was far less there. But you got stuff done a lot quicker. And we've got a lot of similarities, the Brits and the Dutch, I think, because we're a little bit like that too. We hesitate to commit. Whereas they will say they commit and they'll get stuff done, but they will then shift that commitment if they
It's
need
mad. You learn the most about your culture by integrating in other cultures, I think.
There's a big book.
It's like a mirror. When you go and I went to, as I said, was in Costa Rica for a month and Colombia for a month at the beginning of this year, and that teaches you the most about your own country. What are some other sort of more further afield, precarious, or not even precarious, but just interesting places to do business? I think I've talked about this before, but that Shoe Dog book, Phil Knight, talks about how he's trying to get, the Okasana shoes and doing a deal with Japan. And he reads a book in Japan on the plane over it. It was how to do business with the Japanese. And the Japanese are a bit like the French of like, why not? They'll say yes at the meetings. You're thinking, right, pass me the oranges, boy. Like, I'm going to go and get some sake down me and send it because I've just got a deal. And then actually yes means fuck all over there. Like, it's it's nebulous and it's vacant.
It's a pleasantry.
It's a pleasantry. So yeah, like what are some of the other countries?
I've been to Japan. I thought it was amazing. That's another one.
To do export stuff or
Yes, very tricky. And weirdly, they're one of the biggest consumers of granola per capita in the world.
Shut up.
But most of it
Japan?
most of it's savoury, of course.
Savoury granola.
That's what they kind of eat in the mornings. Much more savoury than
Yeah, but I'm just trying to think what that would be like. A sort of like a
seaweedy, crunchy.
Ah, okay, yeah. What, with milk?
Don't think so.
Yeah, that'd be buzz. Doing that with milk. Oh.
Maybe this is an opportunity.
Yeah.
This is your big thing.
Yeah.
So I bought a book. I can't remember what it's called. It's a massive big thing where every 2 pages is a country, and basically it's all the things you need to know before you go to a country. And there's a big chunk on culture and tradition. And I now photograph that for my travelling kids. So one of them was off in in Eastern Europe. It's like, just so when you're in Romania, this is things you do and things you don't do. And this whole thing is coming back to what we talked about earlier, which is people and perspective. And it's like, if you can just adapt to your surroundings, you'll get an awful lot more out of it. And your question earlier was, are there any sort of dangerous things you've got to look out for? So my experience of that was America, where there's a lot of backslapping and a lot of, give me container price, you get this sort of, everything big.
Well, apparently one of the Vita Coco sales guys out there is sort of like, he runs the joint, like kind of like mafia vibes.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to go over there and just, part of me going to this expo thing is just to bang out a shitload of interviews. Because it's like it's the best place to do it, but I wanted to sort of do 20 interviews across the 4 days, but because all those they'll all be there, right? I'm assuming. Yeah. So it's like
I'm literally going to charter a plane. I tell everyone to go out there.
Yeah,
it's the best place if you're into innovation. And
do you have any good links over there in terms of
Disney World?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'll be going there. I'm at Dr. 3. Or if I'm good with my swear jar, you can take me to Disney World and Anaheim.
And then you go store check, and you've got all the stores in Los Angeles there. Just see how Americans do stuff.
So the interesting thing with Americans, there's a lot of like, coming off the container, getting on the phone, sort of more sort of old school. What about any other countries?
Australia. After pulling out of America, I was so frustrated that we hadn't got anywhere with all the effort that we'd gone through. So redirected my energy to Australia. It's a duopoly. You've got Coles and Woolworths.
Yeah.
Most of the buyers, I'd say, so the UK is probably one of the most sophisticated retail markets in the world. Australia a close second because a lot of Sainsbury's buyers are posted out there. Couple of years with Woolies or Coles, again, have a different life over there for a bit, but take the English mentality of retail world. And so they speak a very similar retail language, which makes it, I wouldn't say easier, but easier to comprehend. So you don't have to learn from scratch. So I went and met with both Woolworths and Coles. We ended up with a full store listing in Woolworths for our breakfast drinks. When I went over, this is 2021 or no, 2020. Is that right? We can come back to that date in a minute because I went over 3 times, and the 4th time, new buyer then said we're going to have to change the way we're going to get this product in, which made the margins a bit worse than they should have done. We then got the listing, and we had containers of breakfast drinks leaving our factory on the high seas to Australia. The cash flow all caught up in all of that, you can imagine. And then this little thing called COVID came along. So 2020 it was that our land in store date was March 2020, which I think is the exact date that COVID was globally announced.
Yeah.
No one wanted on-the-go drinks. No one was on the go. And there was this massive sort of, just looking back at it. Anyway, we survived. But that was another, put it in the wound bucket. And we ended up having to find a way of exiting. None of us could go over
to Australia as well?
Yeah, so we had to buy that. So our export.
So how did you make up that volume?
So we didn't. The UK was galloping away. So
Oh, I suppose, yeah, because everyone was buying. Yeah, that was going through the roof, wasn't it?
that was doing all right, and then we came out of COVID quite strong. But there were a couple of big things that happened that actually really accelerated us. It took us 10 years to get to about 20 million or so. It took us the next two and a half years to get to 20 million. So
wait, sorry, you said 20 million twice. So yeah.
10. So 10 years to 10.
Yeah.
And then the next two and a half to 20.
Oh, wild. The exponential curve.
And it wasn't because
you keep
of export.
buggering on, it'll eventually
Exactly.
it'll boot off. Yeah,
This is the thing. We were a 12-year journey, and a lot of people plan for 3 to 5 years, and this is.
Well, how did it go? How did it boot off in those final 2 years? How did you basically? What happened?
So I think there was a series of things that went in our favour, but also time is a great healer with a brand. You know, the more you're around, the more you get seen, the more all these kind of charts and things. We were getting firmly into the early majority of. We weren't a discoverable brand anymore. We'd kind of done time on the shelf. I think that counts for quite a lot. But there was a really big thing which I credit Tesco for. When they changed their promotional mechanic, you had to use their Tesco Club card to get the promotion. And none of our consumers historically were loyal to anything, let alone a supermarket, so didn't have Club card. But they were forced onto Club card to get the deals. And so whenever we went on promo, you had to use Club card to buy our product. And suddenly we popped up on dunnhumby data that we were indeed bringing new people to the category. And they were I don't know if you remember the Tesco families, but we were a Roshni.
I don't know anything
so
about that.
Tesco have 6 groups of family, and so.
Oh, sorry, family isn't like who you're targeting. Yeah, I've seen the different colours. Yeah.
Yes, and our target was considered as a very valuable target. They were people who often shop with baskets, not trolleys. They would buy brands, and they were happy to pay a bit more for those brands because they were also looking for quality and what have you. So it became really clear that we were doing a job on the Tesco shelves, and once we were able to present that to the Tesco buyer, going, yeah, that's what we've been trying to say, and your own company has now kind of pulled it up. We got a big kick on from Tesco.
As a distribution kick on.
Yeah. And then we were able to take that information in its own forms to other parts of the market to grow up.
Mad. Anything else that happened on that exponential?
Yeah, we were very close to forming. So we then, on the export front, not to be kind of put down by my 2 fails, because I was running the export bit, we built a plan for European domination, working just with our granola, which was produced in Germany, and with our manufacturer, who been with us all the way through from the very beginning, to try and use their distribution base to open up new retailers around Europe. So all of that was very close to getting. We were just about to do it, and then we ended up selling the business. So export actually weirdly wasn't a particularly big thing for Fuel 10K. It was built around an opportunity in the UK, not in other.
So there's almost 2 lenses to this. It's almost if you want to exit, get one market right, potentially one other. So I've heard that's kind of common knowledge from people I've spoken to.
Yeah.
But then also just, I suppose, more just out of my personal curiosity, it is mad the different kind of, what's in that book, which is the different ways of doing things.
And that's what fresh marketing was. So we would go to brands saying, look, you focus on your UK and pick a couple of countries. What you do that, we'll do all the non-strategic stuff.
What's the craziest country you've been to?
Loads. I've been to Russia a few times. You know.
What's it like? What's the grocery market like in Russia?
Well, we have one.
They just got one store, which is like basically.
They got plenty of stuff over there, but this is obviously before all the war stuff. But
it's not like they've got it's not. Yeah, talk to me about Russia.
I can't. No, that would take us off on a dive.
Just quickly in a couple of sentences.
I think it's. So I treated every market I visited a bit like the book, where you're trying to figure out how people operate. And Russia's quite an internalised country. It's not a particularly easy market to export to, particularly from the UK. for lots of different reasons. And also they're a lot more price sensitive than us, so you've got to make sure that you've got products that are going to fit into the marketplace.
What product were you shifting over there?
So we've done a number of different things, from granola to nuts and seeds and bars and all sorts. But the attention then turned to the Chinese market. We went and did a trade show in Shanghai. We had an interpreter on our stand. We had no idea what was going on. And weirdly, this Liz Truss came onto our stand when she was the Foreign Secretary, and sort of wafted on and wafted back off again. I'm not sure how much that helped. And we just came away with this kind of, oh my goodness. But in most countries, they have import markets, and some of them are really small. So China's got quite nice, sort of Western-y type stores.
Really?
Yeah, and often they're aimed at expats who are there, or some of the younger generation. Now with the advent of social media and what have you, the world is suddenly more available. And so the younger lot want to experience what the Americans, the Europeans, the Italians, all this wonderful stuff we've got going on over here, and they're sort of craving it. And equally, we've been used to some of their stuff, the number of Asian kind of food halls and things over here. So there is reciprocation on food stuff, but if you really want to get into those markets, then that's got to be a core bit of your strategy. But what we would offer through Fresh Marketing is a listing in a handful of stores in Shanghai and Beijing, and then with Hong Kong and Singapore were quite nice markets because they're full of expats and very price insensitive. And if you found the right sort of products, you'd probably find homes for them there. Shelf life obviously pending, and quite a lot in the Middle East, particularly in Dubai.
So many expats out there, aren't there? Yeah.
So you basically follow the expat thing.
Yeah,
that's what we were doing.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, on that 0 to 10 million, Gianni, what were the big three sort of turning points, do you think, for you?
The 0 to 10.
Yeah.
Oh, we got stuck at 5 for such a long time.
Why did so many brands get stuck at 5?
I don't know. It's so 0 to 2 is impossible. That's the hard bit, really hard bit. And then 2 to 5 tends to be a little bit easier because you're taking what did work to get you to 2 and just growing through distribution. I think from 5 to 10 is where you've got your distribution. There's obviously loads more you can get, but you get to that point where you have to start working on rate of sale, not distribution points. And that means things like marketing, which I was always quite fearful at Fuel 10K because that sounds like a cost centre. Although nowadays I call it an investment centre. But you're not selling into new stores, you're working on rate of sale. So you're on shelf, how do you make it move quicker? And that's through promotional planning and at point of purchase sort of activation and what have you.
Such as?
Well, I think so. We ended up investing quite a lot in our own field sales guys. We had a uni program. We had about 20 university students in certain towns and paid them quite well to go out to stores, pulling everything forward, pushing, taking photos, sending it back to base, and we could see through the data the impact of what was going on with that.
It's like a game of chess, isn't it? As it comes to that stage. Yeah.
But then talk about skill set change, as we were talking about earlier. One thing getting it on the shelf, and then the next thing is getting it moving, it moving, and that's a different kind of mindset. And so that's when you start getting specialists in, as people who kind of know how to do that, manipulate the data to show us whatever we needed to see. And then, there's the whole thing on account management I find fascinating, and I think it's...
What do you find so fascinating about it?
The things that you could do at supermarket level that can put you ahead of the rest.
Such as?
Well, these are the top secrets. If I told you, then everyone would be at it, and then everyone would be at it.
But I suppose you're kind of out of it, so you may as well tell me. We can always take this out.
No, I think...
Tell me and then we can take it out, just for my personal learning.
I don't think it's as simple as a simple list.
Right.
But again, it's about morphing yourself into the customer that you've got, and the customer's not just a buyer. There's a whole operational team beneath them. And if you start working with the ops guys and starting to let them know what's going on at ground level and start doing their job for them, makes it an awful lot easier over time to build trust with them. So when you say, actually, you've ordered a bit too much, you just slow down your ordering. And they go, wow, I've got a brand telling me to slow down my ordering. That's weird. And so when you do say speed up, they go, oh, well, they must mean it, because they just want me to do a good job. There is a whole MBA on that, I think.
Well, but it linchpins your two things: people perspective.
Yeah.
I think you can play that. Want to always get a common theme from every conversation. But like the people and the perspective, that's important with product market fit, like the consumer and the product. It's important with sort of the brand retailer fit. So like, how can you get and start helping the supply chain people, whether it's ordering more, ordering less. Brand exit fit is like, do you talk to the geezer at Premier about football, or do you give them the numbers like this? But it's linchpin between people perspective, and it's just it's a gorgeous principle and truism. But then on that 5 million mark was all these little tactical things, how you got that to 10? Was there anything else you did to get to 10? Because it just feels like, so many of my mates I speak to, go for drinks with, they're like, oh God, we're at that 5. I think Jimmy's talked at length about just that 5 million, just like...
Real sticky.
It's just a sticky fucking...
So basically, if you can figure out in your own category, and there's no
rules,
there's no magic pill. And it could be through innovation. It could be that you tweak your packaging, which is probably the most valuable bit of your marketing budget ever, is your packaging is the bit that sells your product. It's not how much money you spend on Instagram, unless you're an e-com brand.
Well, that's what Perry says, packvertising.
Packvertising. I'm in that camp. I completely agree with it, because it's there. It's the impulse. It's the moment. It's the point of purchase. Now, they haven't seen an advert in the tube and gone, oh, I remember that. Oh no, I just seen another advert. And they see all these adverts on the way to the supermarket. They forgot which one anyone who spends money down there.
What did you change on the packaging?
Because
I can't remember. Was it always the black and purple?
We changed it lots.
Really?
Over time, if I lined them all up. We did little iterations all the way through. Just finessing, test and learn.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think also we'd started out as a very sort of masculine brand. We had a big eye on the front of pack, and it very kind of determined and a bit kind of computer game angry, shoot 'em up type stuff, which as a pack on the shelves of sea of blues and yellows and Weetabix and Shreddies, and we were this black pack, right? Kind of, we stood out. And for some people, early adopters, that really worked quite well. But we knew if we were going to pick up the numbers, we needed to soften the packaging a bit and be a bit more accessible to a broader audience, and try and get some more female tones in there as well, and get a little bit younger and less angry. And from where we started to where we ended, there's a whole sort of...
Yeah. If you ping that to me, what I'll do is I'll put this, I can get it to slide in on the YouTube. For people watching this on YouTube, because that would be sick, just to see the evolution. And it's interesting, it's like product market fit is an endless tinkering. I think like stochastic tinkering, you're like, right, it works for this bit. Right, we've got some fucking freak gamers buying it. We now need to get some yogis buying it, and you just sort of ebbs and flows and changes.
Yeah.
Which is mad. A few more things. I know you've got dinner, mate, but I'd love to talk about future of food. That was last 2 weeks. Was it last week?
Last week, Tuesday. Yeah.
God, that's gone so quick.
Was it last week? 26th of November. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Near now. So talk me through. So Fergus at Nice Rice won it. Like, where do you from that whole kind of wonderful event? And I've had a lot of friends went. So it was amazing. So congratulations. But I'd love to know where is the future of food going? Not just from the brand level, but like on a macro level.
Okay, so 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 my view, having been in the trenches like many of the brands and founders of today, I feel like I can bring some level of experience to this. Most brand owners build a business plan that's 3 to 5 years long, and in fact, most supermarket buyers don't even think that long. Investors probably think about the same timeline, and corporate CEOs probably about the same timeline too. Three to 5 years. A corporate CEO.
So what does supermarkets think on 1 year?
I think they're probably a bit more. Well, I don't know. It depends what the big boss is saying, but they might say for the next 3 years is our vision for. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So they're only really thinking 3 to 5 years in terms of kind of innovation too. Yet, what we know is that there are these mega trends that are coming. Never mind sort of where they're coming from or how they're coming from and who to point the finger at and what have you. We know that these things are happening, and a lot of them are going to happen in our lifetime. So the idea behind the Future of Food was to firstly set the scene with some speakers who were saying, look, I've been there and I've seen it, and this stuff's happening. We had a guy called Penn Haddow, who is the only person to have ever traversed from the Canadian ridge to the North Pole on his third attempt, because the first attempt he was skiing and had a sledge behind him, and he ran out of food because he had to go around all the puddles on the way. Second attempt he went with a rucksack and that didn't work, and the third attempt he put an immersion suit on and a floating thing behind him, and he pretty much swam to the North Pole. And since then he's been kind of campaigning through a project that he's working on, Foundation, saying, look, this stuff is, we've got data now that shows that the North Pole is going to melt for the very first time in 10 years' time. Not 100 years' time, not in 1,000 years, in 10 years, and hopefully you and me might still be around then. And no one is talking about the collective agreements that we did in Antarctica, but in the North Pole, no one's been talking about what happens with fishing, what happens with vessels that are going through the Suez Canal at the moment at great expense and time, when suddenly the parting of the ice allows kind of new stuff. So using that as an example of a very real change that's going to happen. It's also the northern ice cap reflects an awful lot of UV, and when it's not there anymore, that UV will go into our oceans and will change weather systems in the UK. And he says that we're likely to have a more Nordic weather system here in the UK, which is depressing. I thought we were going to have a nice hot one. But so there's that. We also know that there's aging population. We know that by 2050, the chart is saying that there are going to be 10 million more people over the age of 65 than there are today. And today there are 10 million. So double the number of over 65s. And so what are we doing about the sort of food system? Because the birth rate's dropping as well. So who's going to look after them? So let's bring in AI and AR and robotics, which we had at the event. We also know that Musk and Bezos are pretty good at delivering on things, and they want to take us to Mars, and they want to take passengers with them, and space food's not actually such a weird thought in the not too distant future either. So things like vertical farms, maybe we can...
What are vertical farms?
Indoor farms, basically. It's hydroponics.
Why are they called
UV lights?
vertical? Just like a catchy name for them.
Because they
go up.
They go up.
Yeah.
Vertically.
Yeah.
So you can...
What are they horizontal farms that we've currently got in like...
So think back as being a student and the weed stuff that was in
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there are companies now that are supplying some retailers that are pioneering this. You don't need pesticides for it. It's natural.
Isn't James Dyson doing some nutty stuff with strawberries, apparently?
He's doing stuff. Waitrose is actually doing quite a lot on their own.
With Dyson, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he's doing some crazy... Because my friend works for him in PR. She was saying... He's my my friend's fiance. And she was saying that they're doing these strawberries in these farms, which must be a vertical farm, but they're like, I think they're beginning to sell them to Waitrose.
Yeah.
Which is mad.
So one of our finalists was a company called Dogtooth. They got bronze. They got robots that use AR, augmented reality, and probably AI. to be able to pick soft fruit from the trees. So if you imagine trying to pick a strawberry and getting it wrong and crushing it.
Yeah.
And it's just phenomenal sort of innovation. I've been around quite a lot of the agri-tech and climate tech shows, so not just FMCG stuff, but kind of where people are using seaweed instead of plastic, and there's low carbon proteins being produced, there's replication of palm oil, there's all these really cool things, and I want to try and bring those entrepreneurs into the limelight and get an audience together of retailers who can make these things a reality, and journalists who can write encouragingly about them, and investors who want to invest in the next generation, because it's going to be our kids kind of ruling the world in 10, 20 years' time. And it's not a topic that many people get to talk about much, which is why I think, we had a really phenomenal sort of first go at it. And I have just booked the venue again, 27th of November, 2025, because I think it's important. And it was a free event. This isn't a commercial enterprise. This is about trying to get some sort of energy and education behind what I think is a really key thing. And it's a massive topic. And we're just talking UK, never mind the rest of the world.
Yeah. What were some of the other brands there then?
So the winners were Nice Rice, which was all about...
Why did they win? Why did Fergus win?
I think what was phenomenal, he stood up. So they all had a 1-minute pitch and then went back to their pitch tables afterwards, but on stage.
So what's the pitch table? As in like they'd...
So in the other room, they had a sort of 5-foot table.
Oh, sorry. With you.
So a bit like a trade show type thing.
Yeah.
But they were all brought into the Onjetcher Theatre, which is an amazing sort of pioneering venue, the Royal Geographic Society, Shackleton, Scott, and all these wonderful people. And he stood up and said, did you know the second biggest emitter of greenhouse gases after beef is rice? And everyone went, but we didn't know that. And so he explained...
That links back to your pink course. They just say what it is at the beginning.
Say what it is.
Yeah.
Particularly, the hardest presentation ever is to do a short one.
Yeah.
And just...
What an opening line that is. Yeah.
And he said it was actually really difficult. And I learned an awful lot about our company by having to condense the whole thing into 1 minute. And Nice Rice is basically on the shelves next to two other big brands that in pouches, microwavable pouches. And the idea there is that Nice Rice will do well. They don't have to be the next kind of massive big brand success, but what they could do is put influence on the brands in their category to do better. So if Nice Rice is winning because they've got this USP, they've highlighted the issue, they've got a solution for it, which is amazing, maybe the big guys will take heed. And that's how that happened to us in breakfast. We had a few moments like that. It's happening in other categories as well, where entrepreneurial endeavour can really make a difference on the shelves. And if they collaborate with retailers are going, okay, I get this. My job's not just trying to make per square inch stuff. I actually want to do good as well. They have, the collaboration between entrepreneurship and supermarket buyers is really important because they're the gatekeepers to making success. So my thing with the supermarkets is if you're going to have a CRS plan, you're gonna say you are like this. Don't just KPI the profitability of your buyers. Why don't you say something like, and we're going to reduce 10% plastic in this category, and that's his KPI, and if he gets it, brilliant. And then make the buyer go, oh, okay, so how am I going to do that? The easiest thing would be to go to Unilever and say, oi, you've got to do something, help. Or you bring in an entrepreneur who says, well, this is how you do it. And then the buyer goes, hey, Unilever, these guys can do it. Why can't you do it? And so that's the process. And then you get them.
Yeah, I love that. It's the nudging theory. And it's, have you read Ravenous by Henry Dimbleby? Have you read the book?
I owe him a read, I think.
He talks about this place in Finland, and there's this guy called Pekka Pulsa, who goes in. It's the most. We short on time more. Yeah, cool, perfect. And he goes in and he basically says, there's this part of Norway which is so rough and people are dying, and basically it's like I think the cholesterol is the highest in the world in this one part of Norway. So they bring this guy in called Pekka Polsa, similar kind of thing to what you're trying to do, but and he basically goes in, and he was only about 27 at the time. He's like, right, what we're going to do is we're just going to attack it from all different angles. So I think what he did is he started giving everyone snow boots so they could start doing walks, because no one was walking. He started giving them, he spoke to the local sausage manufacturer and said, right, take out half the sausage meat or half the fat and put in mushrooms. Such a small little thing. They basically created an X Factor TV program, so almost a bit like Fat Fighters. It basically became the biggest TV program, a bit like our X Factor, and it was basically who could win, but it was a great incentive. And then he did a few more other things, but what it linked into is you attack it from all angles, and it's these small little things. And what the example I was talking to Henry about was the mushrooms in sausages. You'd look at that in isolation and you'd think, what the fuck's that going to do to solve the cholesterol issue? But then you add in the little bit of the giving everyone boots, and the other thing is they lit up the hiking paths at night so they could have more time to hike. You add all these things together, you attack the system from all different angles, and change happens. Same thing with, like, you may think a Challenger brand is probably analogous to the mushroom and mushroom sausages, right? So what's the mushroom sausage going to do to change this? And by the way, he did solve the whole thing. But you're so right. It's like if Fergus does this, and then that has a knock-on effect to Tilda and I don't know the other brands, right? Uncle and that happens. Uncle Ben's, yeah, that big fucking one. And then that happens with. That's a trick, then. Yeah. I can't wait for my cookie jar full of swear sweets. And then it just nudges around, and that's why it's so interesting to this future of food things. It's like all these brands together will make the change. Do you know what I mean?
Everyone in the room has a role to play. And
yes, that's exactly it. Yeah,
no one's more important than the next person.
Yeah,
what I found with the entrepreneur always takes all the risk and all the pain and all of this and all of that. And there's this sort of hierarchy in the industry where the buyer is a god and the journalist is a god and the investors are god. And what I'm trying to do is say, look, do you know you've got a role to play? If you're the buyer, these are some amazing concepts. You should give them at least some time. There's no commitments at all. If you're an investor and you say you're an ESG investor and you're interested in this topic, you spent the whole afternoon here enjoying the talks and everything else, and you have the power to change something through the role that you play, the stakeholder role that you are. Or if you're a journalist, write encouragingly about these things. Because we all voted, there were 105 entries this year. There were 16 finalists, and there was one winner, and a silver and a bronze. And frankly, the 16 that were there were all pretty amazing as well. We just didn't have enough gongs to give out.
Yeah.
But they got there, and they were really cool. Big ones, small ones, medium-sized ones. So yeah, really inspiring, I think, is the answer. But more important than just that, it's not about the idea, it's about the action and impact that happens afterwards.
But again, as you said there, a bit kind of, as I say, linking to Pekka Polsa in Norway, it's like, back links to two things, and we'll wrap this up here because I've loved this, but no matter what you're doing, whether it's selling your business, raising money, getting employees on board, learning from Innocent, solving the future of food, people perspective, those two, that's the link, and things can change. Barney, that's been amazing. I've loved that. We'll have to do another one maybe this time next year. We'll make it an inaugural thing with post the future of food. But mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much. Hugely grateful.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Dan.